Welcome to the DenCast, everybody. This is our 8th episode. We are now at Applebee's, so we'd like to thank them for having us here tonight. With us, we have Sault High football coach Scott Menard for his second appearance on the show. And we also have Sault High football player Cale Bell. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Scott.
Thank you.
So football is, we're here. It's not around the corner anymore. It's literally tomorrow night.
Right.
So you guys opened with Lakeshore. Last year they came up here, and you guys, realistically, it was a game for about 2 series, and then you guys sort of put it on them after that.
Yeah.
What expectations do you have going down there this time? How do you see in your mind that game playing out?
Well, I think I would look at, after we watch film, I think they're dealing with the same struggles they dealt with last year. I know that they were kind of senior heavy, so I know that that's a struggle for them. I've talked to their coach, and Mr. Bennett's talked to their administration, and they have a new coaching staff. I think they said they had 4 or 5 freshmen on the varsity. So, but we have to travel, right? Scott, we have to leave. We're leaving at 8:30 in the morning on Friday, and we have to watch a JV game at 4, and we don't play till 7. So the travel will be the struggle itself, and obviously, I think if we do as well on Fridays, we didn't practice tonight, and we've done the last week. I think I'm hoping that the results will be the same. I can't guarantee it'll be that big of a score, but I'd like to think that if we do what we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, that we'll be in pretty good shape.
Okay, so one thing that really benefited you guys last year was the fact that you were a much more disciplined team. They had, if I remember correctly, they had numerous personal foul penalties, just a lot of flags against them. Do you anticipate that kind of thing again?
It's hard to say because I know their coach is new. I believe their coach played at University of Michigan, so he's probably got a pretty strong background. But again, I don't know what their system or their program is like. And honestly, Scott, we're new, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have a number of penalties. But I just know that some of the things that we do offensively and defensively maybe are a little bit more disciplined and have more rules, maybe more so than what they do on their offense and defensive side.
Okay, so one guy that we know will not commit a penalty on Friday night is Cale Bell, of course. Cale, what were your memories of that game last year?
Kind of just what you described. We tried to stay more disciplined, stick to the game plan that we went in with. We kind of stuck to our basic stuff. They couldn't figure it out for the first 2-3 series, so, we just wrote it out for the rest of the game.
Okay. Now, in years past, Cale, you've been, I'm not going to say like second fiddle or anything like that, but there have been guys in front of you who've gotten more carries, more touches. This year, you're going to be the guy. Does that change the way you approach the season? Does that change your mindset at all? What are your thoughts coming into this?
I think the preparation's mostly the same. You always plan for if a guy goes down, you're the next one in. So, you always got to practice hard like you're the one. So, you've just been doing that. Okay.
Now, I would imagine probably most people listening to this podcast tonight know who you are already. But one thing that I want to tell people about that I know you won't, early in the season, like early in practices, you guys are in need of a quarterback. And somebody steps up and volunteers. So, Cale, you step up and volunteer to be the quarterback.
You did.
So, what's going through your head at that point?
I'm just thinking, I've been playing for a while. I know the playbook, so, as long as you know it, can't be that hard, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Going to play quarterback's easy peasy.
I'm sure that, and Cale's not wrong. He's being modest, but, we looked at Callan, and, Callan was around since he was a 7th grader, and he knew that offense at every position, and, we've had Cale since he was a sophomore, and, he knows them all. He's a coach back there. So, the original idea was the fact that if we really had no one that we could trust as much as Cale, then he was going to be the guy, and we would just try to tailor a lot of the offense around what he could do. And I mean, that was really the plan for about a month until about July.
And that's what I'd like to talk about next. So you all of a sudden jump out of your comfort zone, say, hey, coach, I'll step in, I'll take snaps, okay? So then you discover you have a transfer coming in to play quarterback.
Yeah.
And you watch him practice, and the same guy who just volunteered to play quarterback comes to you and says, hey, maybe this kid ought to play quarterback. And go, is that how that went down?
Cale, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, it was kind of just like, well, he showed up with no cleats, and he was slipping, and he couldn't really throw. And we were like, man, that's weird. You want some cleats? He goes, yeah. Next thing you know, a 40-yard bomb down the field. And we were like, okay, yeah, you can do this. I'll go back to running back, easy peasy.
Okay, so just, again, the kind of kid that would volunteer to play quarterback, knowing it's probably going to be more difficult than what he's been doing, and then to step back and say, you know what, we got somebody better at that position, I'll go back to doing what I was doing before.
Well, obviously the big void was going to be the fact that who was going to fill Cale's shoes, and I think when we looked at our new guy that came in, Brylan from Montana, and said, can he play this position as well as Cale? Probably, but can anybody play Cale's position as well as Cale? And the answer was no. And so, Cale being the guy he is, and we were not worried that Cale was going to say, "Oh, come on, coach, you told me I could play quarterback." We knew that he would do the right thing, and he actually came to us and said, "Coach, does that mean I can go back to the running back room?" And we said, "Absolutely." So it's really worked out well. But like I said, Cale was very mature about it, and I think it was a situation in both situations, before and after Brylan showed up, that Cale put the team first.
So obviously you can't go ahead and predict how a 9-game season is going to go, but the fact that you have players showing leadership like that has got to be, one box check before we even start.
Well, yeah, and again, we lost, Cale knows, because, he played with these guys for 2 and 3 years. We know how much senior experience we lost, and I think when he looked around, and I know that when we looked around and said, my gosh, nobody here on the team has anywhere near the experience that Cale has, that obviously he was going to be the, our captain, and he was really going to have to do a lot of leading, and he's done that. And, I think guys have really listened to him and followed. And, like I said, he's a coach on the field, so, I'm sure there's a lot of questions he's answering that we don't even get to, because he just takes care of them. And, that's kind of what we're hoping is going to happen, and that's what's happened.
Cale, from your perspective, is that how it works? You guys listen when you're talking? Do you do a whole lot of talking, or are you more of a just watch what I do kind of leader?
I like to try to kind of have a good mix of both. No one's going to listen to you if you're not working, But, yeah, when people come with questions, you always got to answer them. We got a lot of new guys this year, but the playbook's tough, It's hard to memorize in the 3 months that they've been out for. If they've got questions, you got to be the guy that answers them.
Well, and they all probably come to you because they don't want to go say to the coach, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here.
No, absolutely not.
That's a good point.
So back to Lakeshore now. Like you said, 4.5-hour trip?
I looked it up. It's 5 hours and 1 minute from Sault Ste. Marie. 5
hours and 1 minute. And for the love of Pete, tell me you're taking a charter bus down there.
We are. So we are going to leave, and we're actually leaving, we have a double header. So we're leaving, at 8:30 in the morning on Friday, and the idea that we'll get down there in time so the JVs have their 2 hours, hour and a half beforehand, and then they'll play their game, we'll play our game, and, because it's Labor Day weekend and because it's going to be a busy time, and if we had debated staying the night, but, and I don't think anybody else from the Lower Peninsula would. Right, I'm sure there's some UP teams that would say what we said. You know what? If we stay the night, it's going to be a long day back. We're going to lose the whole day. Let's just, jump on the bus and head back. And that's what we're going to do. And we'll get back here about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. But, we've talked about this before, Scott. And obviously, Cale plays hockey, and they do a tremendous amount of traveling, and as we do in football, and a lot of our sports do that. I think our kids are probably as well acclimated to travel and being able to perform after long travel than maybe any school in the state, to be honest.
No, I will agree with you there that I have a lot of friends who live below the bridge, and when you start talking about traveling, they think it's an hour,
Right.
and from our perspective, it's 20 minutes to get anywhere here
Sure.
at a minimum, So it's 20 minutes to get to Brimley, it's an hour to get to St. Ignace, or close to an hour anyway. So you're right, travel doesn't mean a whole lot to Upper Peninsula people, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I mean, we've traveled, we had to go to St. John's, we had to go to Lake Fenton, we've gone to some, we had to go to Menominee. People think that's because it's in the UP, it's a short trip, but it's a 4-hour trip in a different time zone. We've had to go to Kingsford. We've traveled a lot, and like I said, I just think our guys are more used to being able to do that and not look at it as a big deal. And like you said, I've got a lot of friends who coach downstate, and and their longest trip might be half an hour. And I love that, but it's just not the nature of where we are in the state, and we're used to that, and we're okay with it.
Well, and the travel is what actually broke up the Big North Conference originally, wasn't it?
Yes.
Teams didn't want to come up here.
Teams did not want to come up here. Traverse City and Cadillac did not want to come up here.
And now they're going to Saginaw and Bay City. And
Yeah, and obviously, since the late 90s when we were in the Big North, the landscape has changed, and with 8-man football and that kind of thing, you're really forced to really have to adapt or die as far as your travel goes. And I think we've been ahead of the curve a little bit in that, just because we've always had to do it, and I think other teams are starting to figure out that that's the nature of the situation high school football is in right now, and that's where I think, again, we're ahead of the game a little bit.
Okay. So again, back to Lakeshore. You obviously have watched some film on them, but is it good film based on the fact that they have a new coaching staff, like you said? Have you seen film of them in scrimmages or anything like that?
They were in a 4-team scrimmage on the same day that we went to Boyne City. The quality of this scrimmage film wasn't the best. But when you're first starting out in a program, you're probably just trying to get a team ready to go to a scrimmage and not think about, who's going to film it. And we've been in that situation too. And I don't think the area that they were at was great for filming. But we saw some things, and we saw enough of what we wanted to see from what they were doing on offense and defense. And I don't think they're straying too far from what they did last year. Obviously you're going to have some different things with different coaching staff, but I think we're pretty prepared and have a good idea of what they're going to do on both sides of the ball.
So they're not going to do anything that's going to make you say, we need to get out of our base and we need to make sure we're taking care of this or taking care of that or watching this guy or that guy. You're just going to play your base defense and sort of roll the dice a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't say we're going to roll the dice. I think we looked at what they did in the scrimmage against 3 different teams, and they really didn't change much. Now, if you looked at us in a scrimmage, you'd say, well, they didn't do anything, and we really try to keep it vanilla when we do our scrimmage. And they might be the same way, but if you take their scrimmage this year and look at the game that we played against them last year, a lot of the stuff is real similar.
Okay.
So if they have a couple of rabbits to pull out of their hats at the game, so be it, but so do we.
So Cale, from the linebacker spot, against Lakeshore specifically, what kinds of things are you keying on when they have the football?
So through our film, we've seen a lot of zone reads. They run a lot of 2x2. They switch into a formation with an up back that we would follow for their run, but mostly we're just making our reads and trying to be there to make the plays, honestly. It's pretty similar to what we've seen throughout the year, and through the scrimmages, our defensive coaches really prepped us for it pretty well, so we're not really worried.
Okay. So last year against Lakeshore, you guys were sort of, I know you threw the ball a little bit, but you were a lot of ground and pound. This year, based on your new quarterback situation, it's conceivable, not necessarily guaranteed, but conceivable that you could actually throw the ball a little bit more. Cale, from your perspective, what does that mean for you at the fullback position?
It's just, we can always open it up. So, I mean, we're hoping to come out, try to stick to our stuff, do what we normally do, keep the intensity high, and just ride that out. But, I mean, if we need it, it's always there. Hopefully we can set up a run to get to a pass game, just try to open it up as much as we can.
Okay, which is more preferable to you, to go out on a route out of the backfield or to carry the ball and try and run somebody over?
Honestly, whatever gets the most yards, realistically. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I do like to run the ball, but pass sets are fine with me too.
Okay. If you had your choice, like if it were up to you, Menard's not even in the room right now.
Oh boy.
Okay. How many carries does Cale Bell get?
All of them.
All of them. That's the answer I wanted to hear.
That's the answer I'd expect to hear.
Now, Coach, how many carries is Cale Bell likely to get in a game?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you asked that because it's the idea, when we were prepping him as quarterback, that was exactly the question we asked is how many times now do we have to put in, whether it's a quarterback trap or a quarterback ISO or a quarterback sweep. Now that he's back in his natural position, at least as a fullback and a wing T, we run another set where we have a tight end and a wing, and Cale's been playing some wing. He catches the ball really well, and then when we have our spread formations, he's in the backfield. He runs a lot of bubbles and things out of the backfield. So, I mean, he's always been a great pass catcher, and he's always been, obviously an exceptional runner. So, I think our goal, like it had been with anybody that we would consider, a 1 or a 1A back is, he's got to touch the ball 15, 20 times a game. And if not, and if our balance, our balance as far as offense and defense, as far as pass and run has been about probably anywhere at 75 to 25 run to pass. I think that balance will be, or that ratio will be more balanced this year. And that'll probably just mean that, instead of Cale running the ball 12 or 14 times and catching one pass, maybe it's, running the ball 10 or 12 times and catching 5 or 6 passes. And obviously game flow will dictate that, but like Cale said, I mean, we've got some different things that we can do, and I like our traditional stuff, but I'm becoming a big fan of some of the new things that we've done, and I think it's a nice mix for us, and I think we have some, Cale, along with, would probably agree that we have a lot of interesting pieces that we can use in those different sets.
Okay, so I think we've covered the football aspect. One thing I told myself I wasn't going to mention, telling myself, but I can't help it. Scott Menard shows up to an EUP Sports Den podcast wearing a Packers hoodie t-shirt? Is that a t-shirt?
I think it would be more of a casual long sleeve.
Whatever it is, it's brutal.
Listen, we had this conversation last time I was on. I went to Lambeau Field, I went to the pro shop, I saw a sweatshirt I liked, and I bought it. And it just happened to be the one I wore today.
Listen, that thing should be lining the bottom of a drawer somewhere.
Well, you're going to see it every time I come on this show now, from now on. So. I'm kidding. Actually, it was not planned. I would, gosh, if I'd have known you were all decked out in your Tiger stuff, I probably would have worn a Tigers shirt, but it is what it is. Next time I'll wear something that's just too high that doesn't offend you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Be much appreciated.
Yes, it is your show, so I'll try to be more cooperative with it.
Yeah, this is not something a friend of the show does. just so we're clear.
It was not intentional, but it served a good purpose regardless.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on that. But so that's going to wrap it up for this week. We'd like to, again, to thank Coach Scott Menard and Cale Bell for being on the show tonight. Again, we want to say thank you to everybody for listening. We'd like to say thank you to Applebee's for hosting us. We would like to say thank you to Mackenzie, who did a great job taking care of us tonight. So if you come to Applebee's and you see Mackenzie, make sure you treat her right. Good luck Friday night, you guys. And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we got.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you guys for listening, and girls, and we'll talk to you soon.